Hi everyone, welcome to another Procreate tutorial. This is the drawing that we will be completing in today's video, a nice slice of pumpkin pie. So if you are new here, I mainly post Procreate tutorials. If that is something you're interested in, go ahead and subscribe. Otherwise, before we get started, the only thing that you will need to do is download the color palette. I have it linked in the description below. It's totally free to download. Just open up the file that downloads and it'll automatically pop into Procreate so that you can use the same colors as you follow along with the video today. I will also post the canvas dimensions, color profile, and layers needed on the screen here so that you can use those to set up your canvas. So take a minute to get everything ready and then come back and we will get started. Here is our color palette for our picture today. So I'm just going to go right ahead and jump into it. The first thing that we'll do is set our background color. We are going to go to our layers menu, open that up, find this background color layer at the very bottom, click on that to open up our little color selector here. And you should see the color palette down at the bottom here, and you'll select the first color on the first row to set it to that color. So simple enough. Step one done. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit so that we can see the whole canvas. And the next thing that we're going to do is just set up our table that we'll draw like the little tray on and our pumpkin pie. So we are going to go to our layer menu, just make sure we're on layer one, grab the second color on the top row of the color palette, grab the selection tool, set it to rectangle with color fill turned on. And I am just going to start on the outside, bottom left, outside of my canvas. Start there, draw up and to the right to cover the bottom portion of the screen, maybe like a quarter to a third of it, and go all the way off on the right side, and then let go to fill in that entire bottom area with this color. Okay, then we'll just move right along. We'll go to our layer menu, add a new layer on top of this, and now we're going to draw the tray that it's sitting on. So we are going to start with all of these colors on the second row here. These are going to be all of our highlight and shadow colors and everything. So we are just going to start with this first color on the second row. So go ahead and grab that. And we are going to turn on symmetry. So let's do that. So we are going to click the gear icon in the top left. Under Canvas, click to turn on the drawing guide. And then click Edit Drawing Guide. Set it to symmetry on the far right here, and then just make sure that you see a vertical line. If you don't see a vertical line, you might need to switch it under the options down here, but make sure it's on vertical, and then go ahead and click done. And you should have that in the middle of your screen now. And then on our layers, we just want to make sure that this layer that we're on says assisted. If it does not, click on it and turn on drawing assist. But that just means that symmetry is turned on for this layer. Okay, the brush that we're going to use is the monoline brush under the calligraphy tab. We are going to set that to maybe 50%. And the first thing that we're going to do is draw the base underneath our platter. So it's like kind of like a triangular shape, you know, thicker at the bottom, thinner at the top, within our plate sitting on top of it. So the base part we're going to draw first. So let's just start with the bottom. So I'm going to start like halfway through my table here. I'm going to start out a little bit from my center line on the left, you know, quite a bit here, maybe like an inch or two. Draw a straight line across towards the middle, hold it down, touch your finger to the screen to make it a perfectly horizontal line. Make sure you meet with the other side, even going a little over is fine. And then go ahead and let that go. So that's the bottom of our base. If you feel like it's too wide or too short, you can go to this edit shape at the top and you can move it around. So you can like move it up, down, get it closer, get it further away, whatever you want to do. I'm just going to leave mine about here. Okay, and then from here we are going to start on the edge of this line. Draw a straight line going up, hold it down. Don't need to touch our finger to the screen this time. We're just going to make it like a little narrower at the top than it is at the bottom. So just go in a bit, go a good amount into like our background color, like so, and then let it go. And then click Edit Shape at the top, and the biggest thing is we just want to make sure that this line at the bottom, these two lines like meet up really nicely. So mine was kind of like off a little bit. I just want to drag it over till they meet up very nicely so it's a nice good angle right there. And then we can be done, but you can also adjust your line up, down, side to side if you need to at that point. And then I am just going to, across the top here, draw a line across to bring these two together. I am going to hold it down and touch my finger to the screen just for the heck of it to give it a nice horizontal line, and then go ahead and fill it in. I say just for the heck of it because we're going to draw the plate across here and cover up that top line anyway, so it doesn't have to be perfect. So now before we can start doing any shadows or anything, we are going to go ahead and draw the top plate area. So let's go ahead and do that next. So let's add a new layer on our layer menu. Go ahead and turn on symmetry for this layer. So to do that, we are going to go to the layer, click on it, and turn on drawing assist. So it says assisted underneath. Same brush, same color. So the plate's just going to be a nice thin like rectangle with a little bit of flared edges. So I'm going to go down just a little bit into the top of this base so that we cover up this top part pretty nicely. And I'm going to go over quite a bit. This will be the length of our plate. So I'm going to start there, draw a line straight over, hold it down, touch my finger to the screen to make it perfectly horizontal. So I did a nice job of covering up this top line. If you need to, you can always click Edit Shape and then drag it down a little bit if you need to, or move it around however you wish. But I'm going to go ahead and leave mine there. On the edge here, at the end of the line, I'm going to draw a straight line going up and to the right. Just a little bit, hold it down, zoom in, click Edit Shape, and again, just make sure these meet up nicely. And then yes, just a tiny little angle like to the right, nothing too crazy. Back to my brush, and then we are just going to, on this top line, draw over to the middle, hold it down, touch your finger to the screen again to make it perfectly horizontal, and then go ahead and fill that in. So that is our like plate area. So now we have the whole plate and base, and right away I'm seeing some issues. We don't have enough room for our pumpkin pie at the top. I want the pumpkin pie to be kind of like the center, you know, the focal point of the picture, and I just used up way too much room. But it's mostly the base. The plate's a good size, but this base is just way too large. So I'm going to go to my base layer here, click the arrow tool, set it to uniform, make sure that snapping is turned on in the bottom left, and I am just going to downsize it a bit. You can also switch it to freeform if you want, and you can just like make it skinnier or wider or shorter or taller if you want. You know, if that is more so what you're going for, but I'm just going to downsize it quite a bit and then move it back to the center. And with snapping turned on, you'll see this yellow line pop up when you're directly in the center of the screen from left to right. So I'm just going to, again, center it there, place it nicely on my table. Okay, and then obviously our plate needs to go with it. So we'll grab the plate layer, click the arrow tool, drag it down, just keeping it on the center line. And again, if you want to make any adjustments, if you want to make this wider or smaller, you know, you can do all of that. Just make sure to recenter it and make sure that it's nestled nicely on top of our base there. So there, I feel like that gives me a lot more room to make a nice big slice of pumpkin pie in the middle. So go ahead and make any adjustments that you need to until you like how things are looking, and then we will move on. So now we are just going to start doing some of the coloring. So let's first do the base, so our more triangular piece here at the bottom. So find that layer on the layer menu, click on it and turn off drawing assist so that we don't use symmetry anymore because our shadows and highlights aren't going to be symmetrical. And then go ahead and click on it again and turn on alpha lock so that we are only covering on top of this shape. So now on our color palette, we have all these other colors. So we have a slightly darker, a quite a bit darker, and then a lighter, and then a very dark. So we'll use these two next colors as the shadow colors, this fourth color as the highlight color, and then this darkest color is actually like our little lines that are going to just like add a little decoration to it. So we'll do that last. But next we're just going to grab this second color on the second row, same monoline brush, same size, 50%, And we are going to add kind of a nice like curved shadow here. So we're going to say that the light's coming from like the top right portion of the screen. So our shadows are mainly going to be like kind of on the left side here, underneath the plate, and then on the left side of the plate as well. And then the highlights are going to be more on the right side. So I'm first going to make a nice curved shadow underneath the plate on the top left section of this of the base. So I'm just going to start on the outside right side, kind of towards the top, draw a curved line going this way, hold it down until it turns perfectly curved, and then go ahead and click edit shape so that you can adjust it. So I'm probably going to make it a little bit bigger, so anything to the top of this is what's going to be filled in. Everything below it will be like left alone. But I'm just going to kind of make some adjustments here so that it's like this. So we have a little bit more on the left side, a little bit less on the right side, so it's a little bit shorter on the right side, a little bit longer on the left side there. And then I'm going to fill in above it. This is probably going to happen to you as well, where I went to fill it in and it filled in the entire shape. So if that didn't happen to you, great if it just filled in the top area, but if this happened to you, which it probably did, we just need to go in and try to fill it in again. When you go to fill it in, hold your pen down without lifting it up and then drag left on the screen, and you'll see this bar at the top with the color drop threshold, and you just want to get it low enough to where it only fills in the top area. There's a chance that you'll have to do it multiple times, where you'll drag the threshold as far as you can across the screen, and you might not have any more room left to keep dragging. So then just drag it as far as you can. It'll fill in the whole picture or the whole section. Undo the color fill and then retry again, and your threshold will already be lowered from the last time, so then you should be able to lower it enough to actually get it to work correctly. So just make sure you get it to here, and then we'll move on to our next color. So that is going to be the third color on the second row. So this is a little bit darker, so we're just going to add another little bit of shadow closer to our base now, or closer to our plate, kind of following like the same shape that we did before. So a nice curved line, hold it down, click edit shape, and you can make some adjustments. So again, just a little further up, but kind of mirroring that same shape where it's like shorter on the right side, longer on the left side. You know, pretty close to our plate now. Yours might even be touching your plate, that's okay. And then go ahead and fill in this top area. And then we're going to add a highlight, so that is going to be with our fourth color on the second row. So go ahead and grab that. And we're just going to kind of almost do the opposite. So we're going to start on the right side here, and we're going to make a swooping line down and to the left. Going off the left side, hold that down. Again, click edit shape if you would like to make any adjustments. But yeah, we're just kind of doing a similar thing, but kind of in the opposite. So the light's coming from like the top right, so it's going to hit a lot on this bottom right side, and then a little bit just all the way across the bottom. Go ahead and go to fill in below that, like so. Okay, and then that is it for the shadows and highlights here. So we will go ahead and add our little like design with our fifth color on the second row. Same layer, same brush, same size, about 50%. And essentially I'm just going to make a few horizontal lines just to add some like detail to it. So I'll start maybe like a little bit right above the middle, make a line, hold it down, touch my finger to the screen to make sure it's perfectly horizontal. Maybe go down further, make another one. Make another one close to that. Again, holding it down and touching my finger to the screen each time. If you ever need to, you can click edit shape to move it around. And then maybe I'll just make one more across the very bottom, like so. Just a few random horizontal lines just to kind of add some, you know, detail to our base. That is it for the base. Now we're going to move on to the plate and add a few shadows and highlights there as well. So let's go to our plate layer. Do the same thing that we did with the base. We'll click on it, turn off drawing assist. Click on it again and turn on alpha lock. And then again, we used this first color. So now we'll start with the second color on the second row. So same thing, we are going to make some fun kind of curvy shadows. So for this first color, I am going to make almost like an oval that's just partially on the plate. So I'm going to start on the bottom right here, about halfway through. I'm going to go all the way to the left and then kind of curve back around towards the top and hold it down until it makes like an ellipse is what it should have made. So if you click edit shape at the top, it'll say ellipse. So that's just like an oval. So then I'm just going to make it a bit skinnier and I guess a bit longer so that it goes off this right side of the screen here. So this is kind of what it looks like. You can see a sliver of it at the very bottom. And then on the left side here, you see the curve of the oval and it curves back around to the top. Then there's nothing really on the top or and then it goes off the right side at the bottom where we started. So kind of like this. So go ahead and fill in the left and lower side. So then it will look like this. Okay, then we will grab the darker color, the third one on the second row, and we are just going to do a nice little, very sharply curved line on the very, very left side. So a nice, good, sharp curve, hold it down, click edit shape so that we can adjust it. So again, kind of mirroring the first one a little bit. Like so, and then we'll fill in the left side of that as well. So those are our two shadows. And then we will add a highlight, so that will be with the fourth color again on the second row. And to mirror kind of these other two shapes we made, we will make a very skinny oval in the center. Hold it down. Mine turned into a line. But if I click edit shape, it does give me the option for ellipse. So if yours gives you the option, great. If not, you can always redraw it and just try to make it more of an oval. And then you can always adjust it to make it skinnier in this step. So I'm going to keep it pretty close to the right side of my little plate here, but make it nice and long, covering a nice good section, but leaving room all the way around where we can see our base color. So we can see our base color on the right, the top, the bottom, and the left side. But we have a nice good chunk of this lighter color, and then we'll fill that in. So that is the highlight. And that is it for our plate and our base. So that is all done there. Those are all the details that we're going to add to it. And now we're going to move on to our pumpkin pie, the star of the show. So now that that's all done too, we don't need symmetry anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and click the gear icon and then turn off the drawing guide so that we don't have to look at that line anymore. We are done with that. So to make the pumpkin pie, we're going to first start with the crust, and that is actually going to be below this plate layer so that we get a nice clean line on the bottom. So we're going to add a layer, drag it below our plate layer here. Grab the first color on the last row of the color palette, same monoline brush, same 50%, and essentially I'm going to draw a straight horizontal line for the base of the pie, but again, like I'll draw it right here where it meets the plate, and I'll draw it all the way across, hold it down, touch my finger to the screen to make it perfectly horizontal, and like I said, you'll see it just kind of dips right below my plate line here to give it a nice clean finish. So I left a little bit of room on both the right and the left side. It doesn't have to be perfectly even because we are going to have the crust on one side and then the edge of the pie on the other side. So it doesn't have to be perfectly in the very middle. If anything, I would leave a little bit of room on the left side where our crust is going to be. So I'm going to make it a little bit shorter there. So if you need to, you can click edit shape, you can adjust it. It's okay if your line isn't perfectly straight as long as it's under the plate. The plate will make it look perfectly straight, even if it's not, because that line was perfectly straight. So that's why we have it below it. So either way, I left a little bit more space on the left side than the right side. And then I will just click my pen tool again. On this front side, the right side of our pie slice, right where this line ends, I'm going to start there and draw a small curved line up like this, hold it down. Click edit shape if you need to. This is just the front of our pie crust, so I'm going to make it just slightly curved here like so. Make it nice and uniform. Not too thick, we don't want it really, really thick. Pretty thin. This will be like the width of our crust at the bottom. Click the pen tool again. Starting at the top of our curve now here, I'm going to draw another line straight back, hold it down, touch my finger to the screen to make it perfectly horizontal, click Edit Shape and just make sure that it's lined up nicely on the end here, like so. And then on this side, it can just kind of end wherever. We don't want it to go past our first line, but it can go right in front of it. That's fine. We'll draw the side of the crust from there. So now the main thing that we're going to do is we're going to start on the left side of our bottom line here. Draw a line going straight and up and to the left a little bit. Hold it down, click Edit Shape and make sure it lines up nicely at the bottom. And then this is going to be the side of our crust. So we want it to go up and to the left a good amount, like at a typical angle that you think like a pie crust would be, you know, nothing too crazy, but just a nice little angle there. Okay. From this point at the top, we are going to start right here. We are going to make a little curved line, almost like an oval. Hold it down. It doesn't have to connect. It can connect either way, really. Go ahead and click Edit Shape, and then yeah, this is just going to be kind of like the lip of our crust. So I just want it to kind of poke off the backside a little bit and curve around. Make it kind of small. We don't need it to be too big. We'll just make sure it meets up nicely with the top of our angled line here. Then we'll grab our pen again. And from this right side of this like oval, we will go straight back down. Hold the pen down until it turns perfectly straight, and then just kind of try to match the angle of our original angled line on the left here. So just kind of try to match that angle like so, and then we can go ahead and fill everything in. So you might have multiple sections to fill in, that's fine. So my crust is a little thick, that's okay, but with this little lip here, I'm just gonna make it a little bit bigger to kind of match that. So I'm gonna make a little bit of a bigger oval. Click Edit Shape, maybe not quite that big, but just a little bit bigger. Maybe about like this. I'll fill in the rest. Okay, like that, but that is going to do it for my pie crust. So now we're going to add a shadow here. So let's go to our layer menu, click on this pie crust layer and turn it to alpha lock. Grab the second color on the last row, a little bit darker than our original color, and we are going to use that to create our shadow. So I am just going to zoom in here a little bit, and I'm just going to start on the bottom. We're going to make a little bit of a shadow at the bottom side of our pie crust. I'm not holding my pen down or anything. I'm just making it nice and fluid, drawing pretty quickly. If you mess up though when it goes too high or anything, you can always just undo it. But it's not perfect, so I'm just going to kind of leave it kind of a little wobbly, and that's okay. And then we will also do the left side over here and the left bottom side of our little like notch at the top. Kind of fill all that in. If you need to, if you went too far anywhere, you can always hold your finger down on this other color or reselect it from the color palette, the first one on the last row, and you can go back in and kind of like clean it up a little bit. That's totally up to you. Just until you get it to a place where you like the way it looks. And then we'll move on to the pumpkin pie filling. So again, that is going to be drawn underneath our crust now. We made some awesome straight angles with our crust, so to save having to make those on our filling, we'll draw it underneath it. So let's add a new layer, drag it underneath our pie crust layer, and that is where we will draw our filling. We'll grab the third color on the last row. Same monoline brush, same, 50%, we know the drill. So I'm going to start on the left side here, right underneath where my notch kind of ends, right where like the top of the filling would be. I'm just going to draw a nice fluid line over, and then right when I get to the end here, I'm going to curve it straight down. So that's kind of the shape that we're going to go for. So that was just a rough one. I'm going to undo it and try it again to get like a little bit of a better one. Okay, that's better, but not long enough. Maybe something more like that. So just do it a couple times if you need to. Might angle my canvas, that kind of helps. But I'm not drawing any like perfectly straight lines. I'm just gonna, since it's like the filling, it should be like a little bit more fluid, a little bit more like rough around the edges. It's not gonna be perfect. So when you get a good shape that you like for the filling, make sure that you didn't go off the right side here. If you did, you can always use your eraser too and go in and like erase a little bit so that you have a little bit of a lip on the bottom part of our crust here on the right side. But once you get a good shape that you like, go ahead and grab your pen and just go around the edge, the bottom and left edge here, to connect all the shapes so that we can fill them in. So I had multiple shapes. So just go ahead and make sure everything's filled in nicely, like so. Again, you can make some adjustments here too. My right side got a little high. I might go back in with my eraser, which I also always have set to monoline. And I might just kind of smooth it out a little bit. Okay, so maybe something like that. I made it like a teeny bit like wavier and just went around and kind of smoothed things out. Changed them up a little bit just to kind of fit my picture better. So that is essentially the filling. Now we'll add a shadow and a highlight and some little like texture bubbles. So let's go ahead and start with the shadow. So we'll go to our layer menu on our little pie filling layer. We'll click on it and set it to alpha lock. Grab the fourth color on the bottom row, the darker orange, and this will of course be our shadow. So I am going to start on the bottom left here. Not all the way at the top, like I'm not going to fill the whole left side, but just kind of like part way through, a little bit down from the top. And we're going to kind of go down on the left side there, fill all that in. And then we'll just kind of gradually curve into like a bottom line that goes across the bottom. Fill all that in too. You can either drag and drop it, or you can just fill it in with your brush like I am. Just going to kind of smooth out this transition on the left side a little bit. Again, you can always go back in with your original color if you need to. But that's it for the shadow. So now we'll go to the highlight. So we'll grab the fifth color on the last row, and we'll just kind of do the opposite. So we'll just maybe start on the right side here, kind of cover that right top corner. And then just kind of transition into like a line that goes across the top for the most part. Again, no straight lines or anything, just kind of winging it. Draw pretty quickly if you want to get a nice smooth line. That helps, you just might have to like redo it a couple times. But that's it for my highlight, and then to make the little bubbles, we're going to go to our layer menu, add a new layer. Right above our filling layer, click on the N on this layer, and that's our layer style. We're going to drag it from normal where it's on now, drag it up to multiply. Grab the first color on the second row, this light gray color. So here we're just going to kind of create little blobs for like our bubbles. But as you can see, when I add it over where our highlight is and our base color, it adds a shadow to both. So we couldn't use just like a darker color of the base color because it wouldn't work on our shadow and our highlight the same way. So since we kind of want these to just be like part of our filling and not like part of our highlight or shadow specifically, we are going to add them on a separate layer in this multiply layer style, which is a good one for like shadows. But anyway, yes, I'm just going to go around and add like dots and little blobs to kind of be my little filling. So nothing too crazy. So something kind of like this. And then we are going to move on to our final step, which is the whipped cream. And again, the whipped cream is going to be now below our filling layer because we want to use like this top of the filling layer. We don't want to put it over it. So we are going to use the top of the filling layer to kind of cut off where our whipped cream starts. So let's add a new layer, drag it below our main filling layer here, so it should be right above our like triangular base layer. Grab the sixth color on the bottom row, And again, as we've been doing this whole time, this is going to be our main color, and then this is going to be our shadow color, and the last one will be our highlight color. So again, this will be our main color, the 6th one on the last row. Same monoline brush, same size. And we are just going to essentially make 3 separate blobs of whipped cream, but we're going to stack them all on different layers. So this is going to be our base layer of whipped cream. So I am just going to start up here a little bit and just kind of essentially make a nice little blob. And then go ahead and fill it in. Fill in all of it. Go ahead and kind of smooth it out. So I drew mine kind of slow, so it's pretty rough. So I'm just going to kind of smooth it. Make some nice curved edges. Like so. It's a little big. I want room for like 2 more on top of it. So I'm going to grab my arrow tool and just downsize it just a little bit. Keep it like right in the center here. So go ahead and move it or resize it if you need to. Like so. You can also again do freeform, and I might make mine like a little bit wider. And then again, we're going to add the next one on a separate layer again below it. So add a new layer, drag it below our first little dollop of whipped cream. And then it's going to be kind of hard to see since they're the same color, but we're just going to start in a little bit on the left side and just kind of make another little dollop. And then make sure to connect it to the beginning and fill it in. Again, go through and smooth it out. You can always resize it. Also, since it's on its own layer, you can resize it and move it around as well. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that one here. And then again, we'll add one more. So add a new layer, drag it below our second dollop in the middle there. And this will be our final whipped cream layer. And this one's going to be like the one that comes to a point on the top. So we'll again start inside this second dollop now a little bit on the left side. So I'm going to start, make it come to a point. From that point, kind of go back down and swoop around and connect to the beginning. So kind of like a little Hershey Kiss type shape, something like that. Go ahead and fill it in, and then again, if you need to make any adjustments, go ahead and do so. Mine's a little bit big. I might resize it down just a smidge. Okay, so these are 3 dollops of whipped cream. So now we just need to add the shadows and highlights to them. Very simple. Same thing we've been doing this whole time. We'll just start with the top one since that's the one that we're on, this little dollop at the top with the point on it. So go to our layer menu on this layer, click on it and set it to alpha lock. Grab the next color in line, the 7th one on the last row, the darker one. And again, it's kind of hard since they are the same color. We can't really tell where this one ends and the next one begins. But as soon as you start coloring, you'll kind of see it. So just kind of draw down as far as you can where you can see the color, and then just kind of go ahead and add your shadow. So I'm just going to add a shadow to the entire bottom section here of the dollop, like so. Just a nice little like stripe across the bottom with a little bit of like a wave in it, so it's not perfectly straight or anything. And then go ahead and grab the last color on the 7th row, the lightest one for our highlight. And I'm just going to add that to the very tip of the whipped cream here. So again, kind of like a curved little line at the bottom and then filled into the top. So we essentially have 3 different sections of different colors. And then we're just going to keep doing that for the next 2. So we'll go to this next one above it, which is our middle one. Click on it, set it to alpha lock. Grab the darker color, the 7th one. And again, just kind of start at the bottom and just kind of draw until you can see the color. So that is the top of my bottommost little dollop here. So now I'm just going to kind of go off that and just kind of add a whole little stripe on the bottom and kind of again like a little wavy motion to give it a little movement. And then grab our lighter color, the 8th one on the last row, and add that to the top. All the way across. Okay, and then lastly, we will do our final dollop, the bottom one. So find that one on the layer menu, click on it, set it to alpha lock, grab our darker color first, the 7th one on the last row, and obviously we're going to have it just right next to this pumpkin layer. So again, just kind of add a little bit of this darker color all the way across, like so. And then grab our lighter color to add to the top And again, our highlights like coming from the right are light, so kind of add a little bit more on the right side there. So something kind of like that. So this is again a good time to resize anything if you need to. I think everything looks good, but like maybe you want your whipped cream to be smaller or wider, or skinnier or bigger, whatever the case may be, you can do that. You can resize it all at the same time if you want by going to your layer menu and have one of them selected. Slide right on the other two to select them also. And then when you click the arrow tool, you can move them all together, resize them all together, and whatnot. So go ahead and do that if you need to. Otherwise, we are going to do the very last step, which is to add a shadow on our table underneath our tray. So we waited till the end to do this so that everything could be in place before we add it, but let's just go ahead and go back to our brown like table layer here. Add a new layer right above that so it's underneath our base of our tray. Grab the third color on the top row, our darker brown. Grab the selection tool, set it to ellipse with color fill turned on, and just start kind of anywhere on this lower left side of the table and start drawing across to make a nice little oval like so, and then let it go to fill it in, a nice kind of skinny horizontal oval. And now you can move it around if you need to. Click the arrow tool, you can resize it, you can move it around. We kind of want to center it underneath our tray here or underneath our plate. So again, if you have snapping turned on in the bottom left, you can snap it to this center yellow line that shows that it's perfectly in the middle from left to right, and then just kind of line it up nicely under the bottom of your tray here so that your tray is kind of in the middle of it. So some shadow is behind the tray and then some shadow is in front of it. So that is the final step to complete our picture today. So I hope you had fun. If you did, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more tutorials from me in the future. If you would like to share a drawing on Instagram, I would love to see it, so go ahead and post it and then tag me so that I can check it out. While you're there, go ahead and give me a follow so that you can see what I'm working on next. Thanks for watching!